Some streets in America become completely different worlds after dark. Places where gunshots are so common, people stop reacting. Where children learn survival before they learn algebra. Where entire neighborhoods live under the constant shadow of fear. These aren't war zones overseas. These are American cities. Places where violence, gangs, drugs, poverty, and corruption collided, creating environments many people are terrified to even drive through. And tonight, we're counting down the 10 most dangerous places in the United States. But what you're about to hear is far more disturbing than statistics. Because behind every dangerous city are real people trying to survive. Danger doesn't appear overnight. Most of these places were once thriving communities. Factories were open. Families felt safe. Kids played outside until sunset. But over decades, economic collapse, drug epidemics, gunwash, political corruption, and systemic neglect transformed entire neighborhoods into environments ruled by fear. In some cities, emergency calls overwhelm police departments. In others, entire blocks sit abandoned after years of violence. And for many residents, the fear becomes psychological, not knowing if tonight will stay quiet or become another tragedy. Starting at number 10, we enter a city where survival itself has become part of daily life. Number 10, St. Louis, Missouri. At first glance, St. Louis still looks like a classic American city. Historic buildings, busy highways, sports culture. But beneath the skyline lies one of the most dangerous urban environments in the country. For years, parts of the city have struggled with violent crime, gang activity, poverty, and abandoned neighborhoods. Some residents avoid certain streets completely after dark. Others say they can instantly tell the difference between fireworks and gunfire. Entire communities have lived through decades of economic decline. Factories disappeared, jobs vanished, and violence filled the vacuum. But compared to what comes next, St. Louis is only the beginning. Number 9, Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis is famous for music history. Blues, soul, rock and roll. But parts of the city carry a much darker rhythm. One built around violence, desperation, and fear. Residents describe hearing gunshots so often it becomes background noise. Carjackings, robberies, and gang violence have turned some neighborhoods into places outsiders avoid entirely. And what makes Memphis especially haunting is the contrast. One street filled with tourists and music. The next, completely empty after sunset. Locals know which blocks not to cross, which gas stations to avoid, which sounds mean danger is close. And the deeper you go into America's most dangerous places, the more permanent that fear begins to feel. Number 8, Baltimore, Maryland. There are parts of Baltimore where distrust runs deeper than fear itself. Decades of violence, drug trafficking, and strained relationships with law enforcement have left scars across entire communities. Rows of abandoned homes stretch block after block. At night, some streets become eerily silent, not because nothing happens there, but because everyone already knows what can happen. Residents talk about survival with quiet realism, walking quickly, avoiding eye contact, never lingering outside too long. And despite revitalized downtown areas, many neighborhoods still feel trapped in cycles of poverty and violence. But the next city on this list has become infamous for something even more terrifying. Number 7, New Orleans, Louisiana. Tourists see parties, music, culture, history. But parts of New Orleans tell a much darker story after midnight. Violence here feels unpredictable, sudden, chaotic. Economic inequality, gang conflicts, and drug-related crime have haunted parts of the city for years. Some neighborhoods become almost completely deserted at night, and locals often describe an atmosphere of tension that never fully disappears. Because in New Orleans, danger doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it appears silently, and somehow the next place became even more feared. Number 6, Detroit, Michigan. Detroit feels like a warning about what happens when an industrial empire collapses. Once one of America's wealthiest cities, Detroit became symbolic of urban decay. Entire neighborhoods were abandoned. Homes collapsed into ruins. Street after street emptied out. And in the vacuum left behind, crime flourished. Gang activity, drug trafficking, armed robberies. Fear became embedded into the psychology of entire communities. For many residents, survival meant adapting, learning which streets to avoid, learning when not to answer the door, learning how to stay invisible. But Detroit still isn't the most dangerous place in America. Not even close. Number 5, Oakland, California. Just across the bay from wealth and technology, Oakland struggles with a completely different reality. Some neighborhoods face constant issues involving gang violence, armed robbery, and organized crime. And locals often describe the danger here as unpredictable. One moment feels normal. The next, everything changes. Businesses install metal bars. Residents avoid walking alone. Entire blocks empty out before midnight. Because fear in Oakland isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the tension of not knowing what happens next. And the next city on this list has one of the darkest reputations in modern America. Number 4, Cleveland, Ohio. There's something haunting about parts of Cleveland. The silence, the abandoned homes, the feeling that entire neighborhoods were forgotten. Years of economic decline left deep scars here. And in many communities, violence became part of everyday life. Locals speak about hearing gunshots from inside their homes, parents rushing children indoors before sunset, and streets that completely transform after dark. But even Cleveland looks safer compared to the next entries, because now we enter the cities many Americans are genuinely afraid to visit. Number 3, Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham has battled violent crime for years, and in some neighborhoods, the fear feels constant. Shootings, drug activity, armed robberies, communities trapped between poverty and violence. Some residents say they've learned to live with fear for so long. It no longer shocks them, and that psychological numbness may be the darkest part of all. But what investigators discovered in the next city shocked even experienced law enforcement officers. Number 2, Chicago, Illinois. Parts of Chicago have become internationally known for gang violence, especially on the west and south sides. Entire neighborhoods carry decades of tension between rival groups. Children grow up hearing sirens almost every night. Businesses close early. Residents move cautiously. And despite massive police presence, fear still dominates certain streets after dark. But even Chicago doesn't take the number 1 spot, because the most dangerous place in America has become a symbol of urban collapse itself. Number 1, Jackson, Mississippi. A city where violence, poverty, infrastructure collapse, and fear collided into one devastating reality. Many residents describe feeling abandoned. Emergency systems overwhelmed, neighborhoods deteriorating, and violent crime reshaping daily life. At night, parts of Jackson feel almost apocalyptic. Businesses covered with metal shutters, streets nearly empty, police lights cutting through darkness. And for the people living there, fear isn't entertainment. It's routine, because the most dangerous places in America aren't terrifying because of statistics. They're terrifying because real people still wake up there every single day, trying to survive. Behind every dangerous city is a deeper story, a story about inequality, neglect, broken systems, lost opportunities, and generations forced to grow up surrounded by fear. Most people will only see headlines, crime statistics, viral videos, but millions of Americans live these realities daily, trying to protect families, try to survive neighborhoods the world already gave up on. And maybe the most disturbing part is realizing these places weren't created overnight, which means they won't be fixed overnight either. Because sometimes, the most dangerous thing about a city isn't the violence, it's how long people were forced to live with it.